Your statement should also include a description of the event you are attending, as well as efforts to secure funding from other sources. To describe the event, you should define the event, that is, state what the event is. Then you should explain the significance of the event in your field. Also, make note of specific topic or themes that the event covers in a way that highlights the event's significance for your research. Your statement can briefly explain your efforts to obtain funding from other sources and general funding plans to attend the meeting or conference. You can ask your faculty recommender to mention funding opportunities or lack thereof in your school or department. You can incorporate the other funding sources you have applied for in the anticipated budget. The anticipated budget. The anticipated budget is very heavily weighed in terms of scoring. The accuracy of the budget is oftentimes what separates two equally qualified travel grant applications. Therefore, it is very important for you to pay careful attention in making the anticipated budget and making sure that all the numbers add up. First, remember that the GPSC travel grants fund a maximum of 3 nights hotel stay. If you will be staying more than 3 nights, you must allocate only 3 nights worth of hotel costs for GPSC travel grant funding. Second, the GPSC travel grants fund a maximum of 4 days per diem expenses. If you will be traveling for more than 4 days, you must allocate only 4 days worth of per diem expenses for GPSC travel grant funding. Several people have asked, what exactly is a per diem? What is included in it? For purposes of the GPSC travel grant budget, per diem expenses include meals and incidental expenses. Incidental expenses include fees and tips given to porters, baggage carriers, bellhops, hotel maids, stewards or stewardesses, and others, as well as transportation between lodging and places where meals are taken. And that's quoted from the US federal government. Note that for the travel expense report that you submit after you complete your travel, you do not need to provide receipts for the per diem expenses. These are instructions on how to find the estimated per diem expenses for the place you will be traveling. In the GPSC Travel Grants application webpage, under the Anticipated Budget section, click on the link entitled Meals and Lodging Cost Index. Here. In the page that shows up, click on the first link entitled Click here to access the State of Arizona Meals/Lodging Per Diem Allowances. You will then view a PDF spreadsheet of the per diem allowances for each city or location, organized by state. Scroll through the spreadsheet until you find your travel state and city and find its respective per diem allowance. Please note that these are the maximum per diem allowances, and your actual per diem amount should reflect how much you realistically expect to spend on the per diem items. Yes? For the international per diem expenses, you can click on the third one. Click here to access the United States Department of State Meals and Lodging per diem allowances. That should give you a rough estimate, but usually your per diem expenses are lower because these are kind of inflated. The federal figures are kind of inflated. All right. In addition to following the guidelines for hotel stay and per diem allowances, you must clearly indicate the amount of funding assistance requested from the GPSC travel grants. Finally, indicate other sources of funding, including those that are pending, and make sure that the total funding amount matches the amount in the total anticipated budget. So this amount should match this amount. Here's a collection of some common errors in the budget. First, the amount of GPSC travel grant funding requested for a budget item cannot exceed the total expenses for that item. Second, your travel description should indicate efforts to find the cheapest travel alternative. Again, make sure that your hotel and per diem expenses do not exceed their maximum allowances of 3 nights and 4 days, respectively. Make sure that all the expense items are related to the main purpose of your travel. Make sure that you do not request more than the maximum $500 of GPSC travel grant funding. Finally, make sure that your total available funding matches the total anticipated expenses. Any questions? In the second page of the budget template, you will find an exceptions page. If your travel involves any of the following items: long-term travel, personal time, use of other than coach or economy travel on commercial airlines, vehicle taken out of state, whether private, rented, or state-owned, lodging charges in excess of established policy limits, which is not designated lodging, foreign travel, excluding Canada and Mexico, private aircraft, just in case, you know. Use of chartered or rented aircraft or rented motor vehicle. You must explain in the justification memo at the bottom of the exceptions page why you need those items. Also, make sure that before you travel, you obtain authorization from your school or department if authorization is required. Many graduate students attending a meeting or conference share travel costs with fellow travelers. The brochure entitled Sharing Hotel Rooms and Other Expenses Q&A offers useful information about sharing costs, cost best practices, and the reporting requirements for the travel expense report. One thing I would like to emphasize at this point is that for university auditing purposes, if you are sharing a travel expense item, such as a hotel room with a fellow traveler, you cannot pay for the entire bill yourself and have the other person pay you personally in cash. Each person must individually pay for his or her share of the costs and have individual receipts. This presentation has not covered the travel expense report requirement, as it is meant to provide general information for potential travel grant applicants. If you have specific questions related to the travel expense report, you can refer to the brochure entitled GPSC Travel Guide, which is available in the GPSC Travel Grants homepage. Or you can contact me, the GPSC Travel Grants Director, at gpscgrant@email.arizona.edu. If you would like to obtain more information about a particular aspect of the GPSC travel grants, all brochures and documents, including a link to this presentation, are available in the GPSC Travel Grants homepage. This concludes part 2 of the presentation.